I said, Hugh, if it's a local flood, why would God tell Noah to build that big boat, fill it full of animals, and stay in there for a year? Tell Noah to move. I can figure that out. You don't need to be real bright to figure it out. It was a worldwide flood in the days of Noah. I got the map of the South Pole from National Geographic. The Bible says there were giants in the earth in those days. I think it says that because there were giants in the earth in those days. I believe we're going to be able to have our own pet dinosaurs. The Bible says we're going to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. That's going to be awesome. The whole world is travailing in pain. Charles Darwin didn't understand that. He said, I'm bewildered. I had no intention to write atheistically. But there seems to be so much misery in the world. Why? Here the Bible says we're made in God's image, doesn't it? But tomorrow morning in schools in this town, in the middle of the Bible Belt, kids are going to be taught, this is Grandpa. Aren't they? And we're paying for this to be taught, aren't we? It ought to bother somebody. He came to the preacher one day. He said, Preacher, I don't believe anything in the Bible. He said, You don't? He said, I don't believe nothing except you got to prove it to me scientifically. If you can't prove it with science, I won't believe it. He said, Preacher, if you can prove one verse scientifically, I will believe it. The preacher said, Well, okay. He grabbed the atheist around the neck and grabbed his nose and began twisting his nose back and forth. Pretty soon the blood was pouring down the guy's face. He said, Man, what are you doing? He said, I was proving the Bible. It says the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. Proverbs chapter 30. Anyway, I don't recommend you do that, but it does say that, by the way. Lives on bamboo, a vegetarian. By the way, there was an article in Creation magazine about a lion that never would eat meat all of its life. Vegetarian lion. In the 1950s, Thomas Lee of the National Museum of Canada found advanced stone tools in glacial deposits in, however you pronounce that, Lake Huron. The deposits were 65 to 125,000 years old. The director of the museum was fired for refusing to fire the discoverer because it would have forced the rewriting of almost every book in the business. You understand what that's saying? You just don't dare find something that goes against evolution, because you'll be fired. And then the evolutionists turn around and say, well, if there's evidence against evolution, why doesn't it get published? Yeah. Tell me about it. That's like a communist in Russia 10 years ago saying, well, if capitalism really works, why don't we have any books in our libraries about it? Just get married. The page in your family Bible that says marriages, you fill that out, 2 witnesses sign it, that is a legal document. That's all you need. We have made a mess out of our society by getting the government to give us permission to do things that God already told us we can do. Our founding fathers were mostly Christian or Christian-oriented. Patrick Henry said, it cannot be emphasized too strongly, this great nation was founded by Christians. Not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. George Washington said, it is impossible to rightly govern without God and the Bible. Daniel Webster said, if we abide by the principles taught in the Bible, our nation or our country will go on prospering. John Adams said, our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to govern any other. Now, Thomas Jefferson, that wrote the Declaration of Independence, was not a Christian. He was a deist. Love of money, root of all evil. Remember that? Okay. They don't seem to comprehend. Maybe this proves they're not 400 million years old. Maybe the whole geologic column is baloney. We'll cover that. The only question is, are you going? See, God made this world, folks. He owns it, and He makes the rules, and He decides who comes to heaven. And He says, if you've committed one sin, you can't come. Now, if we proved humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time, some people are so committed to the evolution theory, it wouldn't faze them. When they found the coelacanth, they've been teaching the kids this thing's been extinct for 70 million years. They found live ones in the Indian Ocean. They said, wow, look, they survived for 70 million years. They just don't get it, okay? Don't get it at all. This canopy of water that we talked about earlier above the atmosphere would increase the pressure, meaning insects can grow larger. See, insects breathe through their skin, so they're limited based on the air pressure as far as how big they can get. But a fossil dragonfly was found in Italy with a 50-inch wingspan. How'd you like to hit one of those about 70 miles an hour? He'd take the bug deflector and the hood right off. Join you in the front seat, wouldn't he? You guys have cockroaches around here? Man, when I moved to Florida, I thought, what is that? 2 kids are riding this thing down the street. I said, get off, you're going to hurt his back. They said, oh, no, we ride them down here all the time. You know, I found fossil cockroaches 18 inches long. Back in those days, you didn't call Orkin, you called the National Guard. A fossil centipede was found 8.5 feet long. That's a big centipede. Fossil grasshoppers, 2 feet long. Imagine going grasshopper hunting back in those days. Cattails have been found 60 feet tall. A donkey was found in Lubbock, Texas, 9 feet high at the shoulder. Well, everything's bigger in Texas, but... Can you explain colors to a blind man? Try it sometime. Can you explain sounds to a deaf person? We just don't have the capacity to comprehend what God has planned for us. And what did God tell Adam and Eve to eat? Did you know the Bible gives us the cure for cancer and heart attacks and strokes? It's all right there in the Bible. We're just not reading it, folks. Was that God's plan to get us ahead? Suffering, death, war, famine? Oh, Charlie, you got a messed up philosophy about the world. The whole world is travailing in pain. Charles Darwin didn't understand that. There's a lot of water out there. One professor said, Hovind, if there was a worldwide flood, where did it all go? Where's all that water? I said, well, it's still here. It's out in the oceans. They're huge. The Earth's not billions of years old. So why compromise a perfectly good Bible with a dumb theory like evolution, which has no science to back it up anyway? Let's just stick with what we got. It's doing fine, okay? Anyway, fish in a barrel, you just can't miss. I mean, would you want to stand up in front of God and everybody and defend the idea that we all came from a rock? No. Did you know there's no such thing as prehistoric? That word was made up in the early 1900s after evolution became a popular theory. Go get some old dictionaries and look up the word prehistoric. I got a dictionary from 1766, and prehistoric was not in it. There was no such word. Got a dictionary from 1860. Guess what? Prehistoric was not there. If you could talk to the folks from the Civil War and say, what about prehistoric times? They would say, prehistoric, what is that?